Working on it.
Does that work? So just mute that. Are we good?
Hi, can you guys hear us now? I always feel like a Verizon commercial. Is that the company who did that?
You're on mute
hey,
still.
You're on mute. This is...
On mute.
Oh.
How about that?
Does that work now? Oh, better? Aisha said she can hear us. You can hear us? All right.
It doesn't sound like it's not echoing like that? Gosh.
Well, you turn the sound down on your thing.
Hey, remember, it doesn't go down all the way on this.
Oh.
That's why we didn't use this before. We're really figuring it out right now.
Okay, we're going to go with a...
Look how cozy this is.
An echo on our part. I know. People are asking where we are, so if you want to explain again.
We are in the Pocono Mountains.
Yay!
This was like a last minute trip. Came up Thursday night and we have been run. We just did like a whole long hike today to a waterfall and stuff. And we have not had off as a family in
all right, it's echoing.
Years.
Oh no. Right. Well, let's try and fix that.
Okay.
So you can't mute it on that end?
Can't.
At all? Like even down there?
So let's do
and
this.
If it's unmuted on the side. Does that help? Is it still echoey?
It's because this is going to come through there. Hold on, let me do this.
And the camera doesn't work on this one?
No, the camera won't work.
Technical issues.
So then it does that,
John.
and it echoes. I don't know how to make that better.
So
sorry about this.
Oh, can we do it on our phone? Instead of using this, let's do our phone.
Try.
Do you have to get download a stream?
I think I have it already.
Oh, great. No. Oh, someone said it's good.
If it's all good, let me know. If it's good, let me know in the comments. We keep getting a weird echoey thing.
Oh, we're good now.
All right.
All
cool.
right. Yay.
I have no idea what changed. Let's go.
Don't touch your thing.
We'll take any questions that you have regarding education or beyond. Because look, I mean, it is. I was listening to something today, and this gentleman, when we talk about education, when we talk about doing a good job in education, one of the things I think that teachers forget, and we talked about this a little bit last week, this idea where you have to become better, right? That's what we're doing here. That's why we're on here, is to be better. And when we are being better, then we can do better, right? So you have to start with, you have to be better. Then you can do better. Then you can.
I'm laughing at comments. Maisha, she said, the people who will listen to this on the podcast will be so confused.
Yes,
they will. We apologize, podcast listeners.
At least the people on here right now, there's trees. So you have to be better so you can do better. Then you can have better. Then you can have the classes you want. You can have the lessons you want. You can have what you want. You can't just show up and expect that it's going to happen. And so that's the beauty of being on here, is that even if you just come on, I don't even want to minimize it, like even just. If you're showing up and answering questions, asking questions, or listening, it is all meant to build us up and to make us into better versions of ourselves in the classroom and beyond. So go ahead and drop a question in the question section. You can write Q next to it or question. I'll answer any question that I can. Yeah, because now this works.
All right. Well, I found a question. So we're just going to start here and then I'll keep scrolling through to see if I find any others. Jocko is up first asking, I have a few people in my life who looks down on me for being a teacher, money, status, etc. Did you experience anything similar, Reynolds, and how do you handle this?
That's a good question.
Look down on you? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that anybody has actually said that to us, but I will say that coming from a family that, New Jersey's really expensive, and we've lived our fair share of issues, and it's hard when the head of household is a teacher, because look at most educators are female, and are they they're the secondary partner to, they're not just the only single income, right? And so in our case, we ended up having to have CJ be its the sole income because of, my kid was in 5th grade reading on a kindergarten reading level, and I couldn't get the school district to, this is the real truth, right? I couldn't get the school district to meet his needs. And it went all the way to trying to sue the school. And that, you learn in New Jersey, is a very, very difficult, they make it very difficult. And the goal is to bleed parents dry. Right. And so I finally realized this is how kids get to 9th grade and don't know how to read or read on 2nd and 3rd grade reading levels. And I said, there's no way that I'm going to let that happen.
Going a little right here.
I know, but my story, that's part of my story, right? And part of our story. And that's part of how this YouTube channel even exists.
Okay, facts. Got you.
It came because we stumbled onto this because our kid wanted to do YouTube, right? And then he was bored of it, but ultimately it came down to I needed to step down from my job and stay home to help meet my kids' needs and to teach them to read. And because of that, you became the sole income of our home. And teaching doesn't meet the needs when you live in New Jersey. I'm sure it doesn't elsewhere either, because even though your cost of living goes down, your income level goes down as well. So if you're the whole head of household in a teaching position, it's difficult. And so I'm not so sure anybody ever verbally said anything to us, but I definitely felt, at least on our end, it felt difficult. It was we picked a job that couldn't meet our needs and was a financial difficult strain on us.
You can't afford to do stuff. You can't afford to go places. You can't afford to we were talking about years ago. Man, we were broke as Myron says, we were broke as a joke and ready to choke. We were driving home from this house. This is my aunt's house we're staying at. And my car broke down on the highway on the way home, right? I knew my car was in bad shape, but I really wanted to come to the Poconos. I really wanted to bring my son. And we'd end up getting picked up by the cops on the way home, get my car towed, get my family to pick me up at the rest stop. It was a whole mess. I think it's that income piece that really was, if anything, I felt some type of way about. And I feel like maybe there was some family stuff there too. Other than that, I think it was the type of school that I chose to teach at, right? So it was because I've only taught in more difficult neighborhoods. Are the neighbors here all of a sudden?
No. I don't think
all right,
so.
I just heard someone chilling out there. So I think because of where I chose to teach, there was some feelings about that. Now I say this, Jocko, I don't really talk about this very often, but I feel like when my YouTube channel came out and some of my family, or my book, I remember my aunt read my book, and she was like, I had no idea you were doing any of this stuff. And that it's no shade to her at all. How are you going to know what I'm doing? But I remember one time one of my students, Romina, who is currently pet sitting for us and wrote the foreword to my book. She and I were going somewhere, and we had to stop over my grandmother's real quick. My grandmother was like, "Who is this?" And I said, "This is Romina." And she said, "Oh, hi. How do you know my grandson?" And she said, "Well, I was a student in his class." My grandma was just like, "What? What?" And later she told me, she was like, "That young woman was so lovely. She was so nice." And I don't know what my gram thought what was going on, but it was something. So that's kind of my roundabout answer. But I'll say this, dude, even if you feel like folks are potentially dogging you for who you are and for what you choose to do, it's ultimately if you know that you're in your purpose, if you know that you're doing the thing that you're meant to do, I've often felt like, if anything, there's a little bit of jealousy because people see how hard you work and they see how happy you are. They see how important something is to you. So this isn't even to say that I never got angry or mad about school and stuff. Like, I've been mad plenty of times, but it's because I care so much. And I see people looking at what you're doing, and there's a feeling about that. That's like something that people wish they had, instead of just being mad at their boss for giving them crappy hours or something.
I think teaching is so hard because there's so many people like your aunt that said, like, oh, I had no idea. Like, and how can anybody? People don't know what teachers go through in a classroom, what all there's so many facets. Like, it's not just teaching. That's such a, it's not just teaching.
It's another one. When I used to do Big Guy Little Car on Instagram. So Big Guy Little Car was a show that I did, stupid show that I did with like 3 students.
It was stupid.
It was silly. Well, it was silly.
Silly.
And I used to drive these dudes home every day from school, and I had lots of friends and family that were like, "What are you doing? Those kids in your car?" I'm like, driving them home. They're like, "They're your students." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "They're hilarious." And I said, "Yeah, yeah." I was going to bring. That's who I hang with all day.
There's lots of great students. Okay, are you ready for next question?
Yeah, hit it.
All right. Galaxy Far, Far Away.
Nice.
Asking question, what are your tips for a prospective long-term sub?
I think you have to treat it just like a teaching job. I'm going to tell you like this. My daughter had a long-term sub last year, and I'm going to tell you what went wrong, and then I'm going to tell you how I would have made it right. And I don't put this on this dude because I don't know that he was given the support that he should have had in the school, but he didn't do anything fun. He wasn't interesting. Kids literally sat there and copied stuff from a book all day and did like meaningless online exercises. And it was disguised as education. And then the kids would ask, like, why don't we do anything fun? Why don't we do anything cool? And he would always say, like, well, it's not my fault. It's the school's fault. And I buy that to some degree. But I don't think that gets you out of doing the work. I would show up and care for kids. I would show up and get to know who they are. Don't treat it like you're going to be gone by Christmas or Valentine's Day or the end of the year, right? Treat it like this matters to these kids because this is their only year in that grade anyway, right? For most of them. And so really putting in the time and the effort and building the relationship. So like, anything you see here on this channel or things that you're reading in books, like really put it into practice and go hard, right? Like, and even if you're not going to stay at that school, sometimes long-term sub gigs, people realize like that you made something out of nothing in that scenario. Don't overwork yourself. Don't go nuts. Like, find resources online, find resources in books, and use those to not have to like give all of your time to this, because you're going to need to be able to give time to yourself, especially if you're figuring this out and if it's a long-term sub position. And don't be afraid to experiment. And this is for all teachers. Like, it takes so much courage to experiment in the classroom, but really showing up and like trying stuff. Try to have fun. And if it doesn't go well, you will get better, right? You will learn to be better so you can do better, so you can have better. And learning to do that is going to be what just makes you better at anything in your life. So if we want our students to go above and beyond, we have to be able to go more above and beyond than any of them. If you want your kids to be nice and work hard, you got to be nicer and work harder than everyone. So start that now by really giving it all that you can this year. Get excited about it and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Show up here every Sunday and let us help you if you need to, or go to our Facebook group, and that's a great place to connect with people as well. And yeah, that's how I would kick it.
All right, our next question is coming from Liz, asking, first day back tomorrow, how do you organize your paper flow? I have 3 preps and I feel like I have paper everywhere.
So I have a place for everything and everything in its place, and it doesn't leave. So here's what it looks like, Liz. Students come into my class, they get an assignment. As soon as I collect that assignment, it gets a paper clip on it, and it goes into that period's like little file area. Or so I've done this 2 different ways. That way's worked fine. Or it goes into like a basket that is to file or to grade. So all papers to grade are in one place with a paper clip, and I have every student writes their name on it, and in the top right corner they write what period they're in. So just in case it gets mixed up, if you don't give me both those 2 things, I give you your paper back so you fill it out correctly, and then I'll accept it. So I don't touch those papers. I don't hand papers out almost ever. Students hand them out, and I don't collect them. Students collect them, so I don't touch them. If they see that the proper information is not at the top, you got to put this on the top before Reynolds takes it in. Then they know where the paper clips are. They put the paper clip on there, and then they disseminate those papers or put them in the right place that they're supposed to go. And then I try to get papers back immediately. I don't want a whole bunch of stuff. So I find quick and very, very quick and easy ways to grade. I don't grade for everything on every paper. I grade for what is needed instead of all the things. And I have a bunch of videos on how you can do that. Like, for instance, multiple choice questions, I would never spend my time grading those. If a student's not doing it, then I have an app that I'm going to use, and you can oftentimes get your school to pay for it. So I did one with a company called Remark Test Grading last year, a brand deal with them. And they have this awesome app. You just scan it and it grades it. And you can even connect it so that it goes, we're in nature here. You can connect it so that it goes into PowerSchool or Schoology or whatever your online platform is, and uploads your grades already. So it's taking the long time on the front end to figure out the system to set up like the grading with the app, the upload to the system. I'd rather take the 2 to 3 hours if it's going to take that to set that up, because then it's easy for the rest of the year. But that's how I'm built. I'm a systems guy. Like, I love systems.
I think look, I'm not a systems person, but I will say I see the like importance and need for systems. Because we're so awkwardly close. It feels like. I feel like I've recognized in my life as our business has grown and I still have all the responsibilities. Like, no, I need systems in place, because if I don't, I don't get it all done.
Yeah.
So yeah. I hate that answer. Stop. You're so weird. Okay. Summer is up next. Asking, I have a first-year teacher in 2 of my classes. She is the teacher of record in one and shadowing in the other. She struggles with class management, and I step in to help, but it's becoming me as the second part.
You know where this is going.
As the disciplinarian, and she is the fun one. How do I support without cutting her legs from under her? I can't leave the room completely because they go wild.
So, Summer, I'm going to tell you right now, it's exactly what needs to happen.
Leave the room.
I thought Summer was going to ask, how do you teach in 112-degree heat? But I think I'm trying to cut that sun out of there so it's not blinding people. To me, I've had any number of teachers. Started years ago. I had this young woman. She was brand new. She was through Teach for America, and was like, I don't play with the kids. Like, I don't play. And she did not like my silliness at all. I think it offended her. She thought it was so inappropriate that I would like shake kids' hands with like a little hand in my sleeve. Like, I'd have like this little baby hand and shake kids' hands. And she was like, that is so disrespectful. When I would blow bubbles, she just like got so aggravated that I was blowing bubbles with kids. So she also didn't like how I handled classroom management. And we had all the kids that got kicked out. I had all the problem. Not just kids with like IEPs, 504s, kids that had like emotional disturbances. Like, it ran the gamut. But then they would just be like, this kid has failed ninth grade. He's on his 3rd time. Put him in Reynolds class. And it was like, oh my gosh. So we have like 32 kids in the class. And the way that I did classroom management was a lot through like playful sarcasm, like you getting kids out of their seats and doing a lot of stuff. And she did not want to roll like that. So instead, she would just get really aggravated at me. And so one day I missed class, and she was like, I think I was out for something, and she was like, maybe IEP meeting or something, and I come back and
I remember this story.
she goes, you can never miss class again. I said, why? What the hell happened? Because I thought I was slightly afraid that she was gonna love having complete and total control, and she was gonna run it, and it was gonna be like smooth sailing. And she goes, nobody listened to me. No one did any work. It was madness. I walked in, and I was like, did my like, all right, y'all, I need your attention in 5, 4, 3, 2, and everyone got quiet. And she was like, yep, never, you can never miss class again. And then I've had that happen with a number of people, because I think that happens by and large, right? That's something we as parents have really had to try and work on, is like, for me not to be the fun one, and then she's the one that
I'm
like
the
is given chores
disciplinarian
and
one.
stuff like that. But it's difficult, but I think they have to cut their teeth a little bit, right? Because you know that if you have a class on lock, like if Miss Hayward is there and class is on lock, it has to be both. And I've had to learn how to do that with every single
So what do you
person.
do? She asked in the comments, like, do I leave her, or like have the conversation and then leave her, to like?
You can. What I would do is, like, maybe there's some small group testing that you have to handle one day. Maybe there's a kid that you choose to work on one-on-one. Find a reason to not be in the classroom. But I think that's only part of it. It's also, you have to have the difficult conversation, that you're doing her a disservice, and she's doing herself a disservice if she does not learn how to do this effectively. Because next year, if you're not there, then what's she going to do now? Now it's going to be she's going to have this false sense of confidence as to where she is. And I've had teachers do this with me. They test with me. They look, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I'm really good at classroom management. And when I'm not with people anymore, they're like, oh, wait, what the hell's going on here? It's a mess. And so it's really working, like having that conversation with folks, and then don't do the, like, while she's, so I love the dynamic of, like, you're both teaching the class, you teach a part, then she teaches a part. When she's teaching a part, you're not doing classroom management. You're sitting with a kid. You're making sure someone understands it. You're making sure someone understands the guided notes and where to go. You're not like running around like whack-a-mole so she can have a great experience. That shouldn't be the plan anyway. So it's, let her feel some of that. Don't be so quick to jump in. And I say that as someone that likes to fix things, Summer. Like, if my little girl has a problem with something, Daddy wants to jump in immediately. And I do that with people too. And I have to learn how to hold my breath sometimes. And not so that they have a bad day. You want them to feel that struggle a little bit so that they can start asking the right questions of, like, how do I handle this? How do I get this under
it's
under
the only
control?
way people grow.
You have to feel
again, it's unfortunate. All the things that are like necessary and good for us are never easy.
No, but that's really it, right? Like everything you want is on the other side of hard.
Yep.
And so letting them feel a little bit of that difficulty, I don't think is a bad thing, because you got them. You're not going to let them drown, right? Like no kids are going to come and start sword fighting in class or something like that, right? You're there, but it's talking after class about, hey, I saw this happen today. Can I just give you a couple of pieces of advice of how you might be able to handle this in the future? Because next year, if we're not together, I really want you to be able to handle this.
John says, Chennai needs a "Don't Mess With Me" shirt.
She does.
Oh goodness.
She starts doing this head thing.
Yeah. Okay. KP is asking next. Is it okay to have? I love this question. Is it okay to have favorite students, and is it okay to dislike some students?
Yes. I have favorite students. Romina knows that she's my favorite student of all time.
Of all time?
Yeah.
You're putting all your other students out on blast.
So I'd say this, right? It's kind of like when you have kids, right? And Brody,
I don't have a favorite.
our son likes to tell us that our daughter is our favorite child. And she's
sitting right over there.
I think you love different kids for different reasons. You like different kids for different reasons. And sometimes you just jive with a kid better than you do with other students. And so I have had any number of kids that have been like, so I'd say some of my favorites, like, Donovan has a part in the book. Genesis has a part in the book. Romina,
There's a lot of wonderful students.
There's a lot of like great, like Joe,
Rianne, who nobody even knows,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like we love her.
yeah.
She's wonderful.
So there's all these kids, Colleen, that you just get a sense that you were meant to have those students. You were meant to connect with them. And I've had a number of students that like I couldn't stand, man. Freaking like guys that like I don't talk about. And that could be for any number of reasons, right? That could be because I just got mad that I didn't have what it took to connect with that student. It was like other people babied them or something like that and just drove me crazy. But I'm there to do the work. For some kids, I'm there to do the work. Hand out the assignment, teach the lesson, connect with the student, try and make a dynamic learning experience for everyone. I'm not there to be like the one for every kid. And when I say the one, I don't mean like a savior or something like that, but it is like,
or their favorite teacher.
Yeah, like I don't try to be anyone's favorite teacher. But what I want is there's some kids that you just connect with more. So Ramina hated me. Part of the reason that she's one of my favorites is she hated me. And then we both grew over the 4 years that she was in high school into a place where now we're connected for life. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, which is why she's feeding my dog right now.
And she started working for us.
Yeah.
With us. I don't want to say for us, but
she would say that.
I guess. Are we ready? Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Nassim is up next asking any recommendations for untenured teachers. Don't wait to be the teacher you always dreamed of being.
Nassim, I could say this. That's why I'm holding my breath for a second because I don't want to just say this like off the cusp. But I don't and never have played games in education. I don't play the games of like, what do I need to do unless it's like certain PD hours, certain things like that are required to like keep your job or do well. But like, I don't, it's like, be like Steve Martin said, be so good they can't ignore you. And I'm not being good so that they see what I'm doing. 9 times out of 10, my school doesn't even know it's even happening in my classroom. But I am being great because I want kids to have a great experience. I'm trying to be great because I want to have fun in school. I want to do a good job. So it's just keep showing up and doing great work. And if you are not kept by that school, if they don't give you tenure, then somebody else will. Like use that school for like it's what it ends up becoming is practice. When I went to West Philly, I felt like I gave my all when I taught in my first school in Camden, New Jersey. And I was not always even good there. Like sometimes I was just fun. And that was a lesson I had to learn. That's a whole nother conversation. But I felt like when I got to Philly, I had warmed up for 5 years. I had the ability to run now. And I had practiced in all these different ways and built my confidence up in all these different ways. And like, I just think that you just try to be the best that you possibly can. And look, here's the thing with that too, bro. That doesn't look like what anybody else is doing. Not even like what you're watching on YouTube from anyone. You can see aspects of people that you want to maybe emulate or be like or something like that. But no one is the be all end all forever. You need to be the type of teacher that you know you're called to be, that you were meant to be, that you dreamed of being. And I think that should look like, instead of emulating a band, I think of it more as like when this idea I talk about in my book of teaching like a DJ. What elements are you bringing in that you're going to spin into the master playlist, and then how are you putting that on? That's what I would think about. So yeah, just go hard and have super fun time and be courageous and know that you're doing what you're doing for your students.
All right, Miss L is up next asking, how do you carve out time for a side hustle? I tend to hyper focus on all things teaching and seems like so much to do. I struggle to multitask, but I want to try a few other ideas and hobbies.
Yeah, this is a great idea. So one, I don't multitask ever. I am where my feet are. So by and large, right, I'm not perfect at that. I want to say, because even while we've been up here in the mountains, have I been checking my YouTube studio and doing some comments and checking my views and making sure things are dialed in and right? Yes. Have I been sending stuff to my wonderful new social media director, Gabe's, who's been putting out all this awesome stuff for us online? Yes. Do I talk to my wife about business when we're just sitting out here on this beautiful deck, like chilling? I do. To the point where my daughter goes, you guys are talking about business again? You guys are really talking? We're like canoeing yesterday, and she's like, you guys are really talking about business right now? I'm like, yes.
We can't help when ideas pop up in your head.
And it's fun. I enjoy doing this immensely. I would say if you want to find time to do something, you got to plan it out, right? It's got to become part of the rhythm, not the routine. And
systems.
What's the difference? Routines are, no matter what, this is what I do every single day. Right? Like, it is like, you're hardcore. That's important. That's a discipline. But it's like, if I don't do it, if I have it and I do it at from 4 to 5 every single day, and then you miss that, you beat yourself up. Rhythms, you can start 4:15, go to 5:15, but you want to build it into the rhythm and just make sure you're doing it. And remember this, that when you get hyper focused on education, it's the pouring back into yourself that's going to help you do a better job. So if you are not doing great, then if you're not, rather, let me say it like this: if you're not pouring back into yourself, you don't have anything to give. So don't think of that hobby or that side hustle or that whatever it is as extra, as not as important. It's actually incredibly important. That I've read something like, entrepreneurs that have a hobby do better than those that do not. Those that just think about their whatever their business is 24/7. It's people that are like do anything else and have a hobby doing it. They actually do better because it gives your time, your brain literally time to rest, and quiet space to come up with ideas, right? Which is why we always get ideas in the shower, because you finally have a moment to like be by yourself.
Or when you're driving in your car.
Yeah. Or if you're a dad when you're going to the bathroom. So.
All right. Bernie Frost is up next.
Why do you say it all weird like that?
I don't know. I didn't say
it's
it weird.
It's a great name. It sounds like a television character.
I'm in my first year of teaching, Reynolds. It has been a fantastic experience thus far. However, I am very young. I'm a very young teacher. How can I affirm parents on back to school night? I look young as well. Okay. I am very nervous and fear that parents will judge me and not trust me due to looking so young.
First of all, let's just sit on the fact of this right quick.
As a mom, I just want to say I've never judged. I think the only judgment comes that I've ever experienced on a young teacher is not that they're incapable of teaching my child. I always wondered, like, if you haven't had a child yet, do you fully understand children, right? That's more of what it's about than it's your ability to teach a child. It's about, do you understand behaviors of children and like all the different things that they go through, and that comes with having kids, right? So yes. that's the only ever disconnect I've ever or concern I've really had with young educators that were teaching my children.
My teaching changed drastically when we had kids.
Yeah, impacts.
And when we learned that our kids had learning differences. Yes. It changed everything.
Yep.
So I would say this, Bernie, I have this thing that I talk about with sorry, I keep thinking someone's pulling up in the driveway. I have this idea that I talk about often, where I tell teachers to send an email home, or you can even do this at back to school night. You could do it, make it a handout, and say, I want to know these 3 things about your kid. 1, what's something I should know about your child that I'm not going to learn from an IEP or a 504 plan? 2, what is your kid's favorite class ever and why? And 3, what is your kid's least favorite class ever and why? And what you're looking for are clues. Right there, doing that is not acknowledging, more than even the answers, you are acknowledging that a parent knows more about their child than you do. You are you are saying without words that the parents are the experts about their children. And I think that's really important. I think it's also when you have an issue with a kid, calling home and saying, hey, listen, this is something I'm noticing in class, and I'm wondering if your child has ever had a hard time like paying attention before, or reading before, or participating, or being vocal, and if there's anything that's worked with that before. So instead of calling home and like oftentimes teachers just like want to damn kids or put them down or get them in trouble, you're asking questions. So what you're doing there is, I almost love when I feel like a parent for some reason looks at me like they don't even know like if I'm going to be a good teacher, or they like, I just get that vibe from them where they're like, oh, what are you going to do? I love that, because I know that no one else is going to send that email home. I know that no one else, even if there's a problem with your kid and you come into the school, I tell parents all the time, let me just tell you first that I'm so excited that you're here. That when back to school night comes, it is the first thing I want you to know is not I'm a first year teacher. I would never tell them that. It is, I want you to know before we even get started that I am so glad to be your kid's teacher this year, and I want to help them have the greatest year possible. And even if they don't like this subject, even if they don't like math, history, English, whatever, I want them to hate this English class less than every other class. Maybe you could leave that out. You have to have the right ability to pitch that joke. But if there's anything you need from me all year, just let me know. I just want your kid to have a great year. I want them to learn a lot. I want them to enjoy coming to school. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to work with all of you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know you could be anywhere else and doing all kinds of stuff, and then tell them how great the year is going to be. We're going to learn this. We're going to do this. We're going to grow in this area. We're going to do all this cool stuff. We're going to go and this is how class is going to run every day. Show them how exciting it is, because energy is contagious. And that's the class they're going to walk out and go, either that man is a lunatic, or that teacher is awesome, and I'll take both of them. I take both of them over they're boring or they're hard. And I said this on a video I recently, maybe my last video I had come out, where you ever notice like teachers that are really like difficult, right? I'm not saying challenging or rigorous. I'm saying the ones that they're like, do you ever like no one ever passes that teacher's class. They're such a good teacher. It's so hard. The kids never pass their final. It's like, are they really that good of a teacher then? Like, do you ever think about that? Like just because everyone or I'd say the majority of students do well in my class, does that mean my class is too easy? Or does it just mean that I try to do a better job teaching your kid? So I would just be mindful of that as well. It is showing that excitement. And if nothing else, dude, you get to be Mr. Frost. That sounds like the most awesome name ever. What's up, everybody? I wish my name was Mr. Frost with this hair.
Right?
It would be the greatest.
All right. Mira is up. Mira to the Lagos.
Good job there.
I think. Okay. CJ, have you ever had students show you support the same way you support them? Hope you're doing good, growing big, nonstop.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a story about this.
You love stories.
I think I told this in my book. Kyle was a student on the spectrum. Kyle never smiled because when Kyle was in middle school, he got teased for, Anyway, Kyle was in middle school. He got teased because he smiled all the time. And so Kyle was one of these students that every once in a while I get a student like this where they do not have, they lack the ability to have comebacks. So if someone makes fun of them, if someone says something mean, it's like, I don't know if it's a processing thing or if they're just like, they just don't think that way. They don't think in the form of comebacks. They would kind of get stuck like a deer in headlights, and then kids would jump onto that bandwagon and keep making fun of them. And once I notice that this is happening, I will either I've told whole classes, or I tell individual students that, listen, this is what you need to know. Listen, Kyle is off limits, right? So I'm telling you right now that no one messes with Kyle. If you do, we are going to have a serious problem, and I will take this to the ends of the earth to make sure that it doesn't happen. well, if I have to sit down with the principal and your parent, I'm not trying, like, sometimes I tell that story and people are like, like what? I'm like, I'm not going to fight a kid in the parking lot. I'm just talking about, like, I'm going to make sure that your parents hear about it all the time. I'm going to make sure that that kid is ultimately supported. And then I built this like kind of team of kids that, like, and this happens with all kinds of students, not just just like a certain type of kid. But if I have really quiet students, what I'll do is I assign other students in the hallway. I'll say, yo, listen, this is Kyle over here. So we're all eating at lunch. Kyle's eating at lunch in my room. I go, yo, listen, y'all, this is Kyle over here. If you see Kyle, he's having a hard time, like, just sort of assimilating into the school. If you see him in the hallway, do me a favor, just say what's up. Just say hi, Kyle. And because I want him to feel seen. You don't have to hang out with him. You don't have to eat lunch with him. You don't have to be his best friend. Just say hi. And it usually goes further than that, because then they say hi and then they're like, what's up? Like, what are you doing today? Or like, what do you do after school or whatever? And now that kid feels like a part of the school culture. And that starts to build relationships. The bigger point here is that Kyle was off limits. And Kyle doesn't know this. And I tell the kids, like, they're not really supposed to say anything about it. It's just supposed to be like kind of looking out for dudes. But because ultimately what happens is Kyle, when he's a senior, will be put in charge of someone else as well. So we're in class one day. Someone's teaching in my classroom. Kyle comes in during my lunch period and teacher's teaching in there. Usually this does not happen. So this is going against Kyle's rhythm. He's not really certain about what's happening in there. He comes in, he sees me in the back of the class. I said, Kyle, it's all good. Come back here to my desk. He's walking across the room and trips over the computer charger, which pulls the computer charger. It rips the speakers off the wall. And this is in a class that this teacher is teaching. And they lost it because the movie went off. The speakers come off the wall. The papers fell on the floor. Kyle's like, oh, what is even happening right now? And the kids all start yelling at him. The teacher starts yelling at him. Well, Joe, who's a kid in my class, and Joe's story is in my book as well. Joe is a very cool man. Talk about
I just want
tough kids.
Pause real fast. In the comments, they play this game where, like, if every time you mention the book, they say drink.
Oh yeah,
and John is like, I can't drink this much. Or Chris said it this
You
week.
should play a different game where they like give me a nickel. So they're
drinking tea.
When
Sorry,
Kyle knocks the stuff down and everyone starts yelling, Joe stands up, and I do not condone cursing in my class, but Joe stands up and goes, yo, shut the F up. And I'm like sitting there like, oh shit, what's about to happen? He goes, Kyle's off limits. And everyone got quiet. And Joe Joe walks up, takes Kyle by the arm and brings him back to my desk, sits him down and goes, Kyle, you good? And Kyle is like, yeah, Joe, thank you very much. He's really also very, very polite. Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much. And then we calmed Kyle down. We sat back there, and then Joe went just back to like doing what he was doing. And I just thought that, to me, so like, here's to your question, Mira, like that, no one said that thing to me, but to stand up for that truth that we held as something we believed, a value we believed in as a class, and to stand up for another student and show that value like out loud in front of everybody, no matter what the consequences were, was like remarkable, and is one of my favorite things I've ever witnessed in the classroom. It's such a heartwarming story
because Kyle is just so wonderful and adorable, and then Joe is such a, you wouldn't expect that from him to do that. And I love that. All right. Daria is up next asking or saying, hello, I'm a non-native English speaker. Sorry for not knowing some terminology. I will be a 9th grade head teacher, and I will meet them on September 1st. Any advice for good first impression?
Oh, Daria, thank you for being here. First of all, I love it. I wouldn't be able to attend anything that was non-native in my own language. So I love that your commitment. I think, Daria, my sense is that all teachers you have someone you want to be when you start teaching. Whether that's funny or fun, really caring, committed, really helping students be seen that are usually not seen. Maybe it's to have a really special classroom that's decorated really well, or just giving kids like your full attention when they talk to you. That being a teacher that connects with parents and creates community in their school, and is a, has all these other teachers that are full, like, tight community. Whatever that teacher is that you want to be, you need to start being it now, from the first day, right? Like, so set those seeds in place, because the world can't wait. Your students can't wait for you to grow into the teacher that you want to be. Now, look, here's the flip side of that is you're always growing. You never arrive. You always get better and better and better till you're done. And so constantly be getting better, constantly be listening to people. Don't be so committed to what you think. Don't be afraid to ask the question if you're of whether or not a value or belief or something is still relevant. It's okay to ask the question, right? I've asked that question about any number of values I have about things in the classroom, but it is being open to growing into that person too. But like, get started now is what I would do, and do it with all the excitement and all the happiness that's in your heart. That when people tell you you're working too much, if your intuition's telling you that you need to take a break, you need to do something else, you need to take a breath, go for it. But it's like when I was a kid and people would say, why are you listening to that song so much? You're going to get tired of it. Who cares? I'll find another song that I'll get tired of. Like, I'm riding this for what it's worth. I'm going to ride this wave of motivation and inspiration until it crashes. I'm not trying to sustain anything. So, because another wave will come along.
I think that's so true, especially for like entrepreneurs, right? You get told a lot. They get told a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, right? But most people who are doing what they do because they love it, they just love it, and it doesn't feel like work. And so you often get told like, you're working too much, you're doing too much.
No,
and
I do too much all the time, and I'll tell you what,
we love it, and we know what's too much for us. If you pay attention to it.
As a surfer, or in my older age as a boogie boarder, you don't half surf a wave. You don't hold some energy back for the next wave. You don't know when the next wave's coming. You never know how good it's going to be. You ride that wave for all it's worth and put all your heart and energy into it. And then you'll keep finding things to get excited about. So yeah, go get it.
All right. Think More is up next. How do you recommend increasing student attendance, lowering student absentees and lateness to class in high school?
One of the ways I do it, I really think, is about talking to students. I don't think kids understand the game of education. That I think education in some degree is a game. And I think that anytime we can gamify something, we can do better in it, because anything that's measurable it's far easier to grow it. And so when I talk to kids about, even so it's talking to them about the game of education. And, and here's why. How many kids do you have that want to be in the NFL, right? So as a 9th grade teacher, I have all these kids that are 120 pounds or 99 pounds soaking wet. And they're like, no, I'm going to be a linebacker. And so what I did was, at one point I went on, this is for all of you in America, if we're talking about American football here, you can go online and see, like, what are the basic requirements to like be in the NFL? Like, how fast do you need to be able to run and all the other stuff you have to be able to do. And I hold that up to kids and I go, so I'll have kids that are in the 9th grade and I go, all right, you want to be in the NFL? Great, dude. I think that's awesome. How exciting. Like, that would be a great job. Are you playing football now? No. Did you play football last year? No, I haven't played since 6th grade. All right. So you haven't played in the last 2 years. But you're going to be in the NFL. Are you trying out for the team this year? I'm not really sure. I don't really know if I like our team or not. Okay. So here's the list of requirements to be in the NFL. How many of these do you think you could get to right now if you had to, or do pretty well in? Oh my God. Oh, I couldn't do any of this. All right. So what we're doing right now is we're not playing the game right, because if we were playing the game right, we'd have a practice in place to be able to get there. We realize that you can't get here right now, right? We're talking about professional athletes right now. But if you can't do 10 pull-ups, like, y'all better get started doing this. So in 9th grade, I'm not talking about teaching you all the stuff you're going to need to live life. But like, if you can't play to this game, then you can't get to 10th grade and 11th grade and 12th grade. Then you're not going to be able to succeed in college, because I'm teaching real life skills here, right? Things that you're going to take into college and beyond. And if you can't do that, then, and if you're not even here, then you're missing workouts. So you're never going to be as strong as you need to be. Right. So, or if you are, then you're going to have to put more work in later to get there. And I think it's talking to kids about that game. And that is a much longer conversation. The other thing that's important is expressing to kids how much, my gosh, that it matters that they're there. Mm-hmm. Like, I care that you're here. Like, I love when you come to class. Like, I don't like when you miss class. And then giving them reasons to be there, letting them be involved, letting them eat lunch with you, talking with them in the hallway, seeing what's going on at home. Because a lot of times kids are battling things outside of class, whether it's battling themselves, battling depression, battling things that are going on at home. Like, you know, teaching in Philly, like, I mean, you have kids whose like moms were running, everyone's mom, not everyone. There's a lot of parents that have like daycares, but it's really just like they babysit a whole bunch of kids, and then that's what they need to do to get money. And so I have students that, like, if there were enough kids at the house that day, they just don't come to school because they have to stay home and help mom run her business. And so then they're missing school. And it's having the conversation with those students about how important it is for them to be there, how much you care that they're there, how they could navigate some other trials in their life so that they can see that ultimately school is going to be the thing that rocket ships you out of those things, right? That's going to help, really be able to help your mom, really be able to help your family, and you being the one that's going to change everything for generations in your family. Like, it's really communicating to kids the fact that, like, it only takes one person to change the trajectory of your family name forever. But you got to show up and put in work to get there. And that's why it's so important for me to have a why for every single thing in class, because I can't just tell you it's going to be important. I need to explain to you now why this thing is the thing that's going to lead you up for the next step and the next step and the next step. So yeah, it's letting kids know that it matters when you're not here. It hurts my heart when you don't come to school, and communicating that to kids.
Real fast, I would love to just ask of everybody. We have 72 people watching live, and we would love if 72 of you hit the thumbs up to help us out. That would be really great.
Yeah, it just helps other people to see it. That's it. We don't make any money from it or anything, as if I had to justify that. But
yeah, if you like it, if you find value in it, hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate it. And I appreciate the people in the comments doing the same thing. Okay, Laura's up next asking, hi, I'm a new teacher this year. How do you deal with self-doubt when students and teachers may have criticisms?
So,
put some headphones on.
Well, it could be two things, Laura. It could be, you're doing a great job, and I'll tell you what, I can only speak from my own experience, but I'm going to say this, and actually not just from my own experience, because I've seen other people do similar things. When you are trying to do great work, everyone loves to see somebody else burn. They love to see you like a dumpster fire, because sometimes when you teach, there are certain teachers that have they hate that you're doing well. They hate that you're doing better. They hate that the kids like your class more than theirs. It points out their inability to do the same thing. Now, I'm not in a race with other teachers. I tell people all the time that I tell kids, I'm like, yo, this is going to be the best class of the year. And you can tell Miss Cho and Mr. Rufo that I said that, but they're my friends, and that's playful. I think one is inviting people into your awesome, that sometimes, it's like, don't have a party and not invite people to it. If you're having a cereal party, or you're having a great student presentation, or you have a speaker come and speak to your class, you're going on a class trip, like, invite people into your awesome. That'll help dissipate some of that criticism. The other thing is, one of the things I've really been trying to sit with lately, and this is not something I always knew as a teacher, is what if they're right? And how can our haters be our best educators? That if we look at people that dislike what we're doing and see, or they're pointing out our faults, it's like, instead of like cringing, it's going, thank you for that. Like, because you can get better at it. You can get better at anything. So if someone comes on and points out a particular criticism, take it to our Facebook group and say, I keep getting criticized for doing this. How can I get better at it? And see what people say. Because you might, in fact, be able to grow in that particular area and do better. So it's trying to switch your mindset around that. Now, look, as someone who likes pleasing and has a hard time, I go both ways. It depends on what I'm getting criticism on. But if it's a trusted source, like if it's from my wife saying you're doing this too much or you're being like this, I have to really try and sit with that and say, is she right in that? So just being thoughtful of that. So yeah. And look, man, I'll tell you this. The brighter your light gets, the more attention, good and bad, it's going to attract. My pastor constantly talks about the backside of the blessing. So we've noticed lately that on YouTube, we've been getting a lot more comments, but there's a lot more negativity coming through also of people that don't like what I'm doing. They think it's stupid. They have
they don't really understand or know who we are. They don't they're making a judgment off of one video, right? And so,
or off a title of a video, right? They'll be like, so it is both me feeling like me returning to my source, me doing the things that fill me up and make me a better person. So I'm always growing as an individual, so I can be the person that can do the work, that can have the class. But then also knowing that every blessing has a backside. So the better I get at anything I do, the more that light is going to shine, the more like a lighthouse attracts pirates, I would imagine as well. Right. So I don't really know that. I just made that one up. Right. John Lopez probably knows, but it's really being mindful of that and becoming the person who can stand that kind of stuff too. So that's something I talk about in therapy. I'm just going to tell you that
one. Okay. Jean is up next asking, it's going to be my second year teaching, but I'm moving from a 360 student school to a 1800 one, and I find this transition terrifying. Any advice on switching schools, especially from a small to big?
So Jean, oh gosh, here's my piece of advice for you. Look at this, wife, too. So
yeah, I am.
They, in that school, of all those students, I would imagine when you're teaching 360 students in a school, everybody knows every student, everyone knows their parents. It is a small family almost. Going to a huge school, how many students do not have a point of connection? How many kids are invisible? How many have learning differences, disabilities, trauma that is going undealt with because no one sees them? They're flying under the radar. And Gene, what if you show up and you see those kids? You start creating community. You start creating your own ragtag bunch of rascals that are of your own island of misfit toys, that those kids have a place now to belong to one another. That's how I would look at that school. In all the madness and all the stuff going on, in lunch one day, that kid that can't find a seat, that doesn't know where to go. And instead of a teacher going, come on, yo, sit down. Come on, you got to get into a seat. Going, hey, man, you good? Do you have someone? Do you know someone here? Do you have someone do you have a place to sit? Cool. All right. Or being like, yo, you good today? Why come over here? Like, come talk to me for a minute. Like, and starting to build those communities, those tables, those groups of kids, and helping them to find one another. That's what I'm talking about. That's the number one thing I'd be looking at. Because you get to be an opportunity instead of just lost in the sauce too.
Okay.
Got one more?
I mean, do you want to address that or
no?
You don't have to read it out loud.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Jeff Noonan. What do you both do now? He left teaching to do this for other teachers. I never saw the video live.
So there's a video on YouTube called "I Quit Teaching," and there's actually a follow-up video that I'm planning to come out for this, because there's just been some questions and stuff, and
a lot of mixed understanding in that video. People often think that the video is you quit because you couldn't handle the school anymore,
Facts.
like, and your classroom, and you just couldn't handle teaching.
So I'll tell you this, I couldn't
not
handle my school anymore, but that's because I would offer anyone else that's had 6 principals in 3 years.
Your school was mayhem, but your class was online.
But it wasn't just the behaviors, it was illegal stuff. I'm just going to say things that were happening illegally, that things weren't being done about. There was all kinds of unethical behavior happening. So it wasn't that I didn't want to teach anymore. It's that I felt that this was my push and this was my opportunity after doing this work for 7 years, 6 years at that point, 6 or 7 years, that this was the time to see, is this intuition to pour into teachers full time? Because look, I was teaching 10 hours a day, sometimes longer, then coming home, and from 6 to midnight doing this every night for 6 years is exhausting. So it was like, what if this got the best part of my day? So now we are creating YouTube content. We are creating workshops. We are creating a whole lot of stuff on the back end, like resources and things like that we're building out right now. I have a book that came out. I do speaking engagements and trainings and professional developments for school. But I've sat through a lot of professional developments and they suck. So I'm trying to bring this work that we're doing online to schools to just try and really meet teachers where they are and help them in a way that I think only a teacher can understand. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions around folks. And I got asked this a lot when I left the classroom, like, would still be relevant since I wasn't in the classroom anymore? And yeah, I think that, like, ask, any college professor that's not doing stuff. I just think that that's a silly argument, because I had wildly successful classes for almost 20 years in the classroom in some really difficult neighborhoods with no resources or anything.
In broken schools, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I see that effort. So, I mean, I see the people that I work with, and I see that how well it works, and I see them having success. And some of the people on here, they said last week that they tried some stuff in class, and it started off their. Someone said it today.
Yeah, they said they agreed with you and with silliness, and that they tried some of the tactics that they've learned here in their student teaching and had great success, even though their CT, which I guess the classroom teacher, like, who observed them, or was it whatever, however that works, kind of had an issue with it as well, like bringing silliness is. And
I'll tell you this, here's where it comes down to for me. And not to say that Jeff is kind of like questioning this at all. Like,
no, he actually said it feels like you have a larger impact doing this.
So, Jeff, I would say this, that, and I talk about this on a limited capacity because I know it's off-putting for folks, but even that, I'm not super concerned about. I feel like the work I've always been given to do, buddy, has been stuff that's been given to me to do. Mm-hmm. And so as a person of faith, I've always tried to, and I talked about this in my quitting video, I've always tried to follow Jesus with reckless abandon, meaning when Jesus calls you to get out of the boat, you try. And even if you sink, you are walking in faith that the thing you're doing is right. And I don't need anyone to confirm that or affirm that or believe that for me, that I can feel it. Just when I knew it was like to teach, when I knew I wanted to be a clown, I knew that at that season of my life, that's what I wanted to do. Someone just said, what clown? What the hell? Is that what he just said? Did he just say a clown? He did. He also wanted to be a monk and lived in a monastery for just a little while. That I've done any number of things in my life that seemed out of the ordinary or odd or counterintuitive to any number of people. But when you're walking in faith, that's what that looks. It looks like, what are you doing? Why are you getting out of the boat? Now, look, Peter didn't get out of the boat and skip across the water and it was all super fun, right? My man ended up sinking, and Jesus had to save him again. But that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to have that kind of faith walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got one more?
No, there is no more.
All right,
actually.
Cool. Because the podcast is too long and I had to upload it myself last week because Jake moved. and it was impossible.
Christina or Kristen said there's a face in the trees. It looks like baby trees. Oh, goodness.
Look at this place where we are. It is so beautiful. There's like one house across the street, but like there's nobody else anywhere else around. We just sit out here all the time. It is incredible.
It's been lovely.
We've been canoeing and kayaking. We went on nature hike today. Stuff that it is, you know what it is? It is a reminder that I need to be doing more of this stuff. And so as some of you are getting ready to start school for the first day tomorrow, or you had your first week and maybe this is your first full day, I just go have the greatest time of your life. And even if you can't see it on your kids' faces, they don't always want to show you they're having fun. 9th grade wants to look like we don't really care. We're too cool.
That's what Birdie gave us today. He was like, I don't want to go on a hike.
Yeah.
He was miserable, but he had such a great time.
And then he had a freaking great time. So kids, you don't know what's happening inside. You can't always show on the outside what you're seeing, what you're feeling, right? It's too much vulnerability. But I just pretend that they love it on the inside. Go and have the greatest week of your life. If we can do anything, please reach out and let us know. Go to our Facebook group and sign up for that. There's all these great people that are in the comment section. They're all over there doing the same thing. So, and if there's anything you need from us, you can just hit us up at realrapwithreynolds@gmail.com. We'd be happy to help with anything we can.
Yeah. Have a great week. Maisha, first day tomorrow of her 25th year. So awesome.
Maisha, say hi to Milk Toast for us. All right, gang. That might be offensive. I don't really know what that word really means, but I said it anyway.
What's Milk Toast?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Peace.